welcome you again to this session. As far as I am concerned, I would be taking this subject which is known as advertising and sales management. Let me begin by saying that basically this is two subjects combined into one. Basically, in the first part of the subject, which comprises of the first three units, we'll be studying about the advertising and the advertising management, while the latter part would be dealing with the sales management, right? So this is how we'll be covering the syllabus. We'll first complete the advertising management part, and then we'll move over to unit 4 and 5, which basically deals with sales management, right? I have already circulated the lecture plan, so my advice to you would be that you should go through the lecture plan, find out which particular topic I am going to cover on a particular day. You also have your timetable with you, so you please also be ready with the quizzes that I'll be giving you once we complete a particular unit, right? So now this is something that you'll have to do on your own. I would not be making any separate announcements. Fine. So let us start off with the subject advertising and sales management, right? And as I said, I would first be dealing with the advertising management part. So basically in this particular lecture, I'll be talking about the advertising management, and I would begin by introducing the subject to you. Before that, I would like to mention that these are the books that I have referred to. The first book is by Dr. Ruchi Gupta, Advertising Principles and Practice. Now please understand that this book is available here in library. We have got 5 to 6 copies if I am not wrong, and the books would be issued to you, so you can always go through this particular book. And in some other places, whenever some particular content was not available in this particular book, I have also referred to the Bible of Marketing Management, as they call it, which has been written by Mr. Philip Kotler. So that is another book that I have referred to, and in case you want that particular book, I'll be supplying you the e-copy, right? So these are the references. Now let me start off with advertising. Let me introduce the concept of advertising to you. I would not start off with any written material. I would like to start off with this particular print ad. This is a print ad, as you can see here, and I hope you understand that the advertiser, the firm or the brand which is being advertised here is Lakme, right? And now this kind of print ad does appear in some magazines. And what is this particular ad trying to sell? Now this is my question to you, because based on your answer, I would be arriving at the definition of what advertising basically is. So this particular ad is trying to sell a product. I hope you understand the difference between a product and a service. Product is tangible in nature, service is intangible. Here we are trying to sell a product, and the product is some moisturizing cream. The brand is Lakme, which earlier belonged to the Tata Group and now is a brand in the HUL family, right? So this is the brand. Remember the difference between the product and the brand. The product is this moisturizing cream, and the brand name is Lakme. So what is this particular ad trying to sell? This particular ad is trying to sell a product. Remember this. Now here, have a look at this particular ad now. This is trying to sell the Tehri Lake. I hope you understand. I hope you know that Tehri is a district in Uttarakhand, and this is the lake. And this particular ad is trying to, this particular advertisement is trying to sell what? Is it trying to sell a product? It is definitely not trying to sell a product. Have a look at what has been shown here. A perfect blend of adventure and yoga. So what are they trying to tell you? What is this particular ad trying to tell you? If you are interested in adventure sports, and you can see these balloons here, hot air balloons here, right? So if you are interested in these kind of adventure sports, or if you want to practice yoga, if you want to learn yoga, you please come down to Tehri Lake. So basically we are trying to sell a particular place. I hope you understand my point. So here we are trying to sell a particular place. So earlier we were selling a product, now we are selling a lake, place. Now let's have a look at this particular ad now, and this you would find in so many offices that Reliance has across the country. This particular ad which they have, which basically talks about what the founder of the firm used to say. So Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani, and this is what he used to say. Now basically this is trying to sell what is this particular ad trying to sell? And this ad also appears in various newspapers also at times. So this ad is trying to sell not a particular product, not a particular place, not a particular service, but it is trying to sell a particular organization, and the name of the organization is Reliance. So be it the Reliance Energy division, be it the Reliance Petrochemicals, it is not selling a particular firm. It is not selling a particular business within the Reliance empire. It is selling the whole organization. So by using ads, by making use of ads, you can also sell an organization, right? Now let's have a look at this particular ad. Save Me. Basically this is depicting the earth, and the earth is under huge pressure because you can see so many people on both the sides and dancing on the head as well. So what basically is this particular ad trying to convey? It is basically trying to convey a particular idea. The idea is that we'll have to control the population because the earth may not be able to sustain this kind of population growth, right? So now this particular ad is trying to sell what? It is trying to sell an idea. What am I trying to tell you? I'm trying to tell you that advertising might be to sell a particular product, it could be to sell a particular service, it could be to sell a particular place, a particular destination, it could be to sell a particular organization, it could be to sell a particular idea. So, and there are so many other things also which the advertising aspires to sell, right? Let me now come to the definition. Any paid form of non-personal presentation and promotion of goods, services, personality, place, institutions or ideas by an identified sponsor. Now let's have a look at all these terms. Any paid form, what does this mean? This means the advertiser, the marketer will have to pay to advertise his offering. So in this case, naturally the Lakme brand or the HUL company must have paid first to get the advertisement designed and then to place it in a newspaper or maybe in a magazine, right? So the first thing is that it is a paid form. Vis-a-vis advertising, if we talk about publicity is a non-paid form. You don't have to pay for the publicity, it happens on its own. So that is the difference, the distinction between advertising and publicity. In advertising, you'll have to pay to get your offering, to get your product or service advertised, right? Non-personal presentation, what do we mean by this? When you see an ad, do you interact face to face with the company who has given that particular ad? For example, here, do you interact with Reliance as an audience for this particular ad? You do not. Reliance does not know who all are going to see this particular ad. Now this is what we mean by non-personal presentation. Compare it to personal selling. We'll be talking about it in the latter part of the subject. So if you talk about personal selling, that is basically personal presentation, wherein there is a face-to-face interaction between the sender of the message and the receiver of the message. Here the sender is Reliance. We might be the receivers, but the Reliance does not know us. We might be knowing Reliance, but the Reliance does not know us. So this is non-personal presentation. And promotion of goods like Lakme, services, maybe telecom services, maybe education services, maybe health services, personality, people like Badshah, people like Sachin Tendulkar, places like Tehri Lake, places like Taj Mahal, places like India, places like God's own country Kerala, places like Devbhoomi Uttarakhand, institutions like Reliance, like Tata, like maybe the government of India, or ideas, just like this particular idea, right? So what is the advertising trying to present and promote? It could be a good, it could be services, it could be a personality, it could be a place, it could be an institution, it could be an idea, right? So this is what the advertising is trying to sell, trying to promote. And now let's have a look at this particular term here, identified sponsor. Now the audience of all these ads would be able to identify as to who has given this particular ad. For example, here if you look at this particular ad, you can easily find out, you can easily understand that this ad basically belongs to Lakme. The sponsor of the ad is Lakme. The Lakme brand is trying to advertise itself through this particular ad. Here, if you look at this particular ad, you can easily identify that it is basically Reliance. You can easily identify that basically it could be the government of India. You can easily identify it could be the Uttarakhand tourism. So you know as to who is giving this particular ad, who is coming out with this particular ad, who is the sponsor, who is the marketer behind the particular ad. For example, you say Doodh ki Safedi Nirma se aayi. So you understand that basically this ad has been given by Nirma. You understand who the sponsor is, who is the marketer behind this particular ad. So this is what the definition of advertising is all about. It is a paid form, we have discussed that, right? It's a non-personal presentation, form of presentation, wherein there is no face-to-face interaction between the sender, that is the marketer, and the receiver, that is the audience. So the marketer does not personally know the members of the audience, so that is why it's non-personal presentation promotion. And what all things can it promote? It can promote goods like the moisturizing cream here, it could promote services, it could promote personality, place, institutions, or ideas. And the last thing was, you can identify as to which particular organization, which particular entity has given a particular ad. Is this fine? So this is what the definition is all about. Now let's have a look at the nature of advertising. First, it is a mode of mass communication. Why mass communication? I hope you remember what you have read in your first semester, where you talked about business communication. Therein you were taught about the four modes of communication. One is the intrapersonal, then is the interpersonal, and then there is group communication and the mass communication. Now what happens in a mass communication? The sender of a particular message does not personally know the receivers. That is what a mass communication is all about. So for example, if let's say Prime Minister comes to Pithoragarh and he addresses the people in Pithoragarh, he personally does not know the members in the audience. And this is an example of mass communication. Likewise, advertising is also mass communication, because Reliance does not know as to who all are watching or who all are reading their print ad. Is this okay? So advertising is basically mass communication. Then again, it is controlled by the sender. The message will be controlled by the sender. What will be the message will have to be determined by the sender. The sender has full control over the message. He can present the message as he wants. So this is the kind of control that the sender exercises over the message. For example, you have been watching various ads on TV, or maybe nowadays on mobile internet as well. क्या आप क्लोजअप करते हैं या दुनिया से डरते हैं? आप क्लोजअप क्यों नहीं करते हैं? Now this is an ad. You know the sponsor is the Close-Up brand, which is basically an HUL brand. And the message, what would be the message? What would be the picturization? What would the characters be doing? What would be the voiceover? Everything is controlled by the sender. Now this is another characteristic of advertising, that as a sender you can control all aspects of the message or the ad that you are coming up with, right? Another important aspect is that advertising is trying to persuade people to do something. For example, have a look at this particular ad. Now, I hope you understand who the sponsor here is. Please don't confuse the word sponsor with sponsorships, right? This is altogether a different thing. Here, by sponsor, I mean the marketer. Who the marketer here is? The marketer here is Airtel brand or the Bharti Airtel company, right? And what are they trying to do through this particular ad? Have a look. Switch to India's widest 4G network. So what are they trying to tell the audience? They are trying to tell the audience that we have got the widest 4G network, and if you want never to go out of the signal range, please purchase an Airtel SIM. This is what they are trying to tell the customer, and this is how they are trying to convince the customer, trying to persuade him to buy their services. Fine. Then again, advertising is a goal-oriented activity. What do we mean by this? Advertising is done with a particular purpose in mind. It could be, as was the case here, to make people switch to Airtel network, to make people buy Airtel, for example. It could be to make the people aware about the existence of a new product or a new brand in the market. For example, when the BBA course was started here in Degree College, people were not aware. So as of now, even now, people are not aware here in Pithoragarh that such a course is being taught at the Degree College Pithoragarh. So what are we doing? Here the goal of our advertising campaign would be to make the people aware that okay, we have got a Department of Business Administration which hosts the BBA course. So awareness creation could be another goal. There could be another goal. It could be to remind the customer to make a purchase, to remind the customer to buy a particular product again. So there can be different goals of your advertising campaign. We'll be discussing these goals in detail in Unit 3. So there could be, I have given you an example of 3 different goals. One was to create awareness. Second, as can be seen here, to persuade the customers to buy. And the third one which I talked about was to remind the customers to buy a particular product or to buy that particular product again, right? So there could be different goals which you can decide right in the beginning, and then you launch your advertising campaign so that you can reach that particular goal, reach that particular objective, right? Now please understand, advertising is something that requires creativity. If you are not creative enough, you simply cannot come up with a good advertisement, or you cannot simply come up with a good advertising campaign. So it requires a lot of creativity. Have a look at this particular ad. Now this is an ad. I hope you understand who the sponsor here is. Naukri.com. Now this is a print ad. And what does this depict? This basically depicts that a beggar was sitting here and now he has got a job. So he's left this particular place and he's no more into begging now, and he's got a better job now. So basically what Naukri.com is trying to say in a very humorous manner is that we can even find a beggar a job. So you don't need to worry. In case you need a job, please come to us. Please log on to our website, right? So this is the kind of creativity that is required in advertising. Fine. Naturally, to create these kind of advertisements, you require a lot of investment. You need to make investments. It could be, for example, now let's talk about the Pulse Polio campaign. I hope you remember the Pulse Polio campaign and the brand ambassador. Or let's talk about the Swachh Bharat campaign. You can relate to it better. Swachh Bharat campaign, Shauchalaya campaign, and the brand ambassador is Mr. Amitabh Bachchan. Don't you think you have to shoot the ad first of all? You might have seen these Swachh Bharat campaign ads on TV. You have to shoot the ad first, and which means there would be so many people who would be involved. Then once you have shot the ad, then you have to actually telecast the ad on television, for which you will have to talk to that particular television network and you have to buy ad space. Or maybe if you want to broadcast that particular ad through radio. So then you'll have to talk to that particular channel and purchase that space to broadcast your ad, or maybe in case you are going for a print ad, you will have to purchase ad space on a newspaper or in a magazine. So naturally it is going to incur you a lot of cost. So it is costly. It is basically an investment. What is the difference between cost and investment? Investment is being done with the expectation of a future return. So basically you are investing something to design the ad and to actually broadcast it on television or on radio with the expectation of some profit accruing to you in future because of this. So you are expecting that more and more people would buy your product, would buy your service, they would switch to your products, and then the money that you have, basically the cost that you have incurred in designing the advertisement and broadcasting it, you would be able to recoup that cost, right? So advertising is basically an investment. Now let's talk about whether advertising is science or whether it is an art. Is it science or is it an art? I hope you understand, and we have talked about the difference between science and art. Science is something that can be taught. It is not, you are not born with science concepts. You are not born with theories. You can be taught those theories, right? And there are clear-cut rules in science, but art does not have clear-cut rules, right? So that is the basic difference between science and art. So let's first of all understand whether advertising is a social science or not. So advertising is basically a social science. It's not a pure science like physics or chemistry. It's a social science where the rules are not that exact. Fine. So it's not a pure science like physics or chemistry. In physics, if you apply this much force, this would be the amount of acceleration, right? So that does not happen with advertising, but still it is social science. It is having a systematic body of knowledge, which is the case with the science stream or the subject in the science stream. It is a systematic body of knowledge, and then there are theories and concepts. For example, I have talked about a few concepts here. We'll be discussing all of them in detail later on. How to set advertising goals. So there are particular concepts. What are the ways in which you can set advertising goals? How can you determine how much you are going to spend on advertising campaign? And how can you actually check? How can you monitor? How can you assess the effectiveness of your advertising campaign? So basically, you've got all these concepts. So you've got clear-cut concepts for all of them. And as I said, we'll be discussing them later on also. Which means that this advertising is basically a science. Because in science only we have generally a systematized body of knowledge, and which is the case here with advertising as well. Again, now advertising is a social science which basically draws a lot from sociology, from economics and psychology. And as we move ahead in the syllabus, you'll understand that how we are using various concepts of psychology here, various concepts of sociology here while designing an advertising campaign. So it basically draws from these various disciplines, and this again is a science. And that is why, as I told you, if something is science, it can be taught. Art is inborn. You can be a painter, not by training. You have to be born with that talent. You can be a good singer. You can only be a good singer if you are born with some talent. Training can help, but no amount of training can make Sachin Tendulkar a very great singer. Do you understand? So, as far as arts are concerned, they are inborn. You can be a good singer or you might be a good painter. This is something that cannot be taught to you. Yes, it can be improved upon. So you already are good at painting, you have a talent, you have a knack for painting, and I can train you on that. Otherwise, I cannot teach you how to be a good painter. So what can be taught? Science can be taught. And that is why we are saying that advertising is a science. Now please have a look at this particular this is a picture which depicts the students who are studying in a particular college, and have a look at the name which has been mentioned here. Mudra Institute of Communication, a very Ahmedabad. It is there in Ahmedabad, a very famous institution, very well known institution, which basically specializes in advertising. It basically specializes in advertising and other forms of promotion. And if you want to do your MBA, this can be one of your options available to you, right? So what I'm trying to tell you by showing you this picture is, since in this particular institute the students are taught to become, they are taught the various concepts of advertising, they are imparted skills to make them good marketers who can market, who can advertise their products well. This means that this particular thing can be taught. You can be taught to become a very, very good advertising expert, and that is why we are saying that advertising is a science. However, advertising can also be an art. Please understand, it requires a lot of creativity, and creativity is something that cannot be taught. You cannot be trained to become creative, and this happens with art. I have given you this example. Painting, it requires a lot of creativity, and no amount of training can help you if you are not having the knack for this particular talent. If you simply do not have the talent to paint well, no amount of training can help you, because this is basically an art. And this is what I'm trying to tell you, that art requires creativity, and just like that, advertising also requires creativity. Have a look here. Where do we require creativity while we are coming up with these kind of ads? Now please understand, there's a problem. See, I cannot load too much material. There is a size constraint also, so I am simply not able to use videos as examples. So I would broadly be talking about, generally in most of the cases I'll be talking about the print ads. I'll be making use of the print ads to put forth my point. So you can always go back and you can look at those videos as well, right? So I could have included a video ad, a television ad, but because of the size constraint I'm simply unable to do that, right? So I'm broadly focusing on the print ads. Now have a look here. Why do we require creativity? Copywriting. Now what do we mean by copywriting? Again, we are going to cover it in unit 3, so don't need to worry about that right now, but just to give you a brief idea. Now this is what copywriting is. This is the copy basically, and coming up with this copy, trying to design this copy is called copywriting. Helmet, you are wearing a helmet, and helmet, in case you are not wearing, you are going to meet hell. Jahannam mein jayenge aap, right? So this is what this means basically, and this is basically trying to convey the message that you should always wear your helmet while driving your bikes. So do remember this. However, this requires a lot of creativity. Illustration. Have a look at illustration. Basically means these pictures which have been drawn here, right? Now this is illustration. Again, this requires a lot of creativity. So advertising requires a lot of creativity. Now let's have a look at other things which require creativity. Ad theme. What will be the basic theme of the ad? Now this here, the theme is that we are trying to make use of, the emotional appeal. We are making use of the fear appeal to make people understand that they should be wearing helmet. Now this is the basic theme. You should wear the helmet. That is the basic theme. Ad placement. Where are you placing the ads? Yes, you have designed the ad, everything you have done, but where are you going to place the ads? Have a look at these ads which have been placed here, and do you understand why they have been placed here? The person who comes here while urinating, he has got 15 to 20 seconds, and that is the time when he is relaxing, and he can always have a look at these ads here. Don't you think it's a wonderful way of ensuring that your audience actually sees your ad? And this requires a lot of creativity, and that is why advertising, just like art, it requires creativity, and that is why it's also an art form. Have a look at this particular example. I've taken up this example. This is Mr. Alec Padmsee, and he is known as the advertiser of the century, Indian advertiser of the century. If you go and try and find this particular term, look for this particular term on Google, you would find his name, Mr. Alec Padmsee, known for so many ad campaigns that were designed by him. Why I am giving his example here? Please understand, he was not trained in advertising. He did not have any formal training. He was not even an MBA. He was just probably a BCom honors. But since he was creative, he made a name for himself. He made a mark for himself in the advertising discipline, right? And this is one very famous ad campaign which was spearheaded by him, the Liril campaign. I hope you remember the jingle, la 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 la. Now this is the jingle that I'm talking about here, and this was the very first advertisement in this particular campaign, the Liril Fresh campaign, right? Come alive with freshness. So what I'm trying to tell you is that to be an advertiser, you don't need to be an MBA. If you want to be an advertising guru, you don't need to be an MBA, just like Mr. Alec Padamsee. What you need to be creative. And that is why advertising is an art form, right? So thank you very much for your time. We'll continue the discussion in the coming sessions also. Please keep having a look at the timetable, because I would be posting my lectures according to the timetable. And also please remember that once we are through with the unit, that is the first unit, we will be moving ahead to the first quiz, right? So please keep making your own notes, please keep preparing your own notes. Thank you very much for your time.